Welcome to Mapping the College Audition, a podcast where we explore the landscape of the college theater world and try to demystify this daunting audition process. I'm your host, Charlie Murphy, director of MTCA, that's Musical Theater College Auditions, and today we have a heart and soul-filled show lined up for you. Ricky Oliver from Hartt, or the University of Hartford, is an old friend of MTCA's. We say old a bunch in this episode, but Ricky is a very young man like myself. For the past 2 years, he's participated in our private walk-in auditions with MTCA, and our students have had such great experiences with him, as have we. Today on the show, we get into the great humans that make up Hartt. We talk about the acting and MT training and how they learn in tandem. We talk about the advantage that you can take of minors. We talk about cool professional opportunities that you'll get. The actors can work at Hartford Stage and the MTs at Goodspeed. We talk about some study abroad programs. We talk about Ricky's anti-robot agenda. We talk a bit about how scholarships are divided. And we talk a bit about Showcase. But Meghan, before we dive into this episode with Ricky, it's happening right now.
I know.
In April, decisions are being made. We're seeing photos. Wait list movement is really starting to happen as those commitments. Of course, those two things are happening in concert with each other. Yeah. Final negotiations are happening, which we talk a lot about in this episode. So listen in for that scholarship stuff. What a time.
What a time. And I know that it's like hard to, send that email, like click that button to put those deposits down. But there's some great thoughts from our artists and faculty members that you should tune into, students. But what a time to be making a decision and the next step forward into your journey.
Mm-hmm. And if it feels like us saying that means you have to decide right now, of course you don't. You still have some time. We have some weeks ahead yet. But we're really in the meat of that season now as we listen to this. Mm-hmm. But without any further ado, let's get to Ricky Oliver from Hartt. Well, we are honored to have Ricky Oliver on the pod today. Ricky has a BFA in music theater from this very University of Hartford, an MFA in acting from Brown University / Trinity Rep. He's acted in New York City and internationally. He's taught at Brown University, Cap 21, Molloy College, DeSales University, and is now the chair of acting training at Hartford University, or the University of Hartford, I should say, which is located in West Hartford, Connecticut. They take classes of about 25 musical theater, 12 to 14 actors. They offer degrees of BFA in acting, BFA in music theater, as well as some other degrees in the theater world. Ricky, welcome on the pod. How you doing?
I'm great. That was the best introduction I've ever had. So you're hired.
Come on, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I do these pods mostly just for the introductions. Just it's a chance for me to get to hear my own voice, and it's very thrilling.
Awesome. Well, you're doing a great job. Keep at it.
But before we dive too deep into Hartt, I'd love just if you give me the kind of Cliff Notes version. We heard a little bit of your bio there, but how did you find yourself in this current position? Give me the little Cliff Notes catch up of how we are here today.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an alum of the program. I actually went through the music theater program once upon a time. And, as I kind of navigated my own career, my launch into the industry, I've always really stayed close with the Hartt School just because I had such an amazing time. And it was such a transformative experience for me that I never really lost touch with my faculty members, with the training. I often between gigs, I would come back up here and see shows and guest lecture. And I just, I've always wanted to be a part of the fabric, a part of the landscape here. So I, as I went and after I got my master's and I started teaching more, then I started performing, I found my way back here, kind of doing adjunct work, here and there, a semester here, a show directing here. And, I just kind of started to stay. They started to kind of keep me around. And, as COVID happened and everything kind of shut down, I really took that as an opportunity for me to, really plant roots here. So I've been here since 2019, and this year is my first year taking over as chair. So it's been a lovely progression.
You've successfully become part of the fabric. You've turned yourself into fabric. That's true acting to do that.
There you go. Cotton blend, really.
Oh, yes, of course. I wouldn't think nothing less of you. But okay, I want to ask this, but I'm embarrassed to ask this actually. So I'm going to ask it recording, and we almost certainly won't include in the pod, which is, why are there two T's on Hartt at the end, but Hartford doesn't have the two T's in it?
Right. It's a very old. I mean, there's a long tradition of the Hartt School. The Hartt School started as an opera program, and they thought they got a bunch of donors together in the University of Hartford, because the University of Hartford is broken up into several schools, and this being the music school. So to differentiate between the University of Hartford, they add the Hartt School of Music. So it started as the Hartt School of Music. And that's simply because, some bigwig who paid a lot of money wanted their name on the door. So they called it the Hartt School of Music.
And that person's name was Hartt?
Yeah.
Who just, and it had nothing to do with Hartford? Just two separate things?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
What the weirdest coincidence.
That is amazing. I was sure the T was going to stand for something or something.
Oh, I wish. No.
A little extra T. Okay, so let's get to it then. In terms of sort of in a summation, as you've had the experience of seeing Hartt students, and especially now as you've taken over as chair, what do you think it means to be a Hartt acting or a Hartt musical theater student?
Well, I think what it means to be a Hartt student is, with all these BFA programs, there's so many of them, right? So what is distinguishable between one program or another? There's always,
Ricky, tell us.
Of course. And then I wish I had the golden answer to all of that. All programs really desire a student that's going to be focused, that is going to be ready and game and hungry. What we look for at Hartt is we look for a lot of potential. And we look for someone who's going to work hard, but also really take in. We're such a process-oriented program that we are in the business of training people who not only are successful in the industry, in the business, but also people that just want to take on lots of lessons to push themselves past their breaking point, and understanding that on the other end of it is where the actual growth is. So our students are dedicated, are focused. I'm sure a lot of programs say the same thing, but we're also we're pretty good at finding really great, likable people, really great humans. That's, when I walk down the hallway, there's just a bevy of really amazing humans that I get to teach every day. And that is, I think, one of the really cool things about the Hartt students. And they're all just so kind and warm. We don't really nurture a very cutting or competitive spirit. Of course, there is a competitive nature to what we do with casting and such. But for the most part, there's it's a healthy competition. People are wanting and going after the roles that they're going after, but then at the end they're like, oh man, I really wanted that part, but that person, I'm so glad they got it. And I'm going to be supportive, and I'm going to be a part of the show in another regard, or, what have you. So it's that really great support system that our students are really capable of, that I find really does make what a Hartt student is.
I love it. And I do think, to complement the younger generation, we sometimes talk sort of on the pod about generational differences and how, it was when I was a kid and how it is now. But I do think it's a lot of these young people, this is not just true of students, 17, 18-year-olds today, but I feel like since we've been doing this, our students are so good at that, are so good at the supportive, not cutthroat, I feel like what I was going through, it was a little bit more like, yes, I got it. And oh my gosh, no, she didn't. Oh, isn't that where I never see that? All of our students right now are in that acceptance mode of, oh my God, there's another great one. Yeah. And you don't see students going, oh, I can't believe she booked this school. People are so warm and supportive.
I agree. And you know what? We're on the precipice of something too. I think generationally, these people, these young artists that are coming through these programs, they're changing the face of American theater. They just are. And we are, those of us old fogies out here talking about,
we're both very young. Ricky and I are very young. Let's be clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone is like,
just
okay,
fresh out. Yeah, right. Looking down at the younger generations, it is such a wonderful moment, because we really are in this new age of how people are going to digest the American theater. And it's really on the backbone of what you just talked about, this supportive, really the generosity of spirit that these younger generations are bringing to the table, which just allows for us as the teaching artists to really dive in and rethink the way that we teach, which I love it. Students are teaching me all the time, and I love that. I love it.
Okay. So
I think we're in a moment.
So take me through this curriculum. I understand for the most part the teachers or the students are teaching you, but for the times when you're teaching them, take me through this curriculum a little bit of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I come in, I'm open, I'm curious, I'm ready to be pushed beyond my boundaries. What am I going to learn over the course of those next 4 years?
Sure. It's really important to us that, especially in the acting curriculum, and I can talk about all the different, disciplines that we offer. But, with the acting, the AT program, the actor training program, and the music theater program, the AT or the MT, they both learn acting at the same. It's in the first 2 years, they're all in the same acting class. It's not like the music theater majors are learning a different style of acting than the acting majors. Acting is acting. And so with us, especially in the first 2 years, they all take voice class together, voice and speech class. They all take a music theater chorus class together. They all take ballet together. They all take acting together. They all take movement together. So there is this, we're all learning from each other, and everyone has their own backgrounds and experiences and skill sets that we're all learning at the same rate. The only reason why we fork in our junior year is because the acting majors are learning more of a Shakespeare concentration, because they have a London program that we immerse themselves in, where they study abroad in London in a Shakespeare intensive. So we're kind of gearing them up for that. Whereas the music theater majors are still learning Shakespeare. They're still learning text analysis. They're still learning all the various facets of their acting curriculum, but they're also taking on more dance classes. They're taking on more singing classes. Acting through song comes into play. There's lots of more concentrated areas that the juniors and seniors get up to. But when you're a first year or a second year, everyone's learning at the same rate. They're all doing the same plays. They're all doing the same curricular trajectories as everybody else. And I think that nurtures also like, okay, well, just because you're a music theater major or you're an acting major, doesn't mean that there's any, there's not much of a difference. Everyone's learning at the same rate.
I love it. And then talk me a little through, so for the non-theater classes and just generally outside of the theater part of the university, what else do I get to do at Hartt if I'm a MT and an acting major?
Yeah. And you know what? Personally, everyone has a different take on this, but I feel like the BFA program is a very rigorous program, no matter how you cut it, right? If you have a student that is a BA, going for a BA program, that's going to be more academically driven, more theory-based kind of training. But a BFA is all, practical application of doing what they love, right? But for my money, the academics play just just as much of an impact as the concentration of the conservatory classes. So in our training program, 66% of their time spent either in the AT or the NT program will be focused in the concentration of their choice. The other 33%, and, give or take, half a point here, half a point there, are the academics. Many of our students take advantage of the minoring opportunities that we have because they want to be well-rounded, humans. Again, going back to being humans, we want our students to feel like they can study other things besides what they love to do. There's lots of room for lots of different passions in the program that I represent. And we really nurture those kinds of kids that really want to have a wide berth, that really want to broaden the horizons, study academics, but also maybe take a minoring and then do the 5, 6, 7, 8, and then do the great big Shakespeare monologue as well.
And talk to me about this, just to so I understand that I get the branching that happens at junior year. In the first 2 years, are musical theater majors also getting additional classes, in singing and dancing that goes beyond what the actors are doing?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great distinction. Yes. The music theater majors, starting right at their first year, they will be taking ballet and jazz, and they will continue ballet and jazz all 8 semesters. They will be taking private voice every week. All 4 years. They after their freshman year, we give them coaches, so they get to work 30 minutes with a coach for the latter 3 years. So there is a hardcore concentration of music theater majors get, and then the ATs get a little bit more of a movement-based curriculum, a little bit more voice and speech, a little bit more dialect. So that as far as the first 2 years go, there is delineation in that they are learning their concentrations.
Totally makes sense. Just a Venn diagram there. Well, and then not to make you speak for the musical theater program, but if you had to say, and I know it's so biased to ask an actor what the concentration of a musical theater program is, but how is there a discipline that it feels like Hartt focuses more in the musical theater world of acting, singing, dancing? Is there a little more emphasis on one of the or two of the stools than the other?
Yeah. First of all, we train them equally. We are really hoping that our students, while they're with us for 4 years, they have a very great understanding of all three disciplines. That is why they have private voice all 4 years. That is why they have ballet and jazz all 4 years. We add tap in the sophomore year. That's why they have acting all 8 semesters. We are giving a foundation because we want them to have all the disciplines, at least a very good understanding and a confidence that they can really, they have mastered all 3 disciplines.
I love it. And I keep saying all 3 stools when I mean all 3 legs of the stool. I started saying legs of a stool like a month ago, and now I just keep saying the stool of musical theater. But that sounds not like what I mean when I say stool.
We're going to have to unpack this stool metaphor. This is
Sigmund Freud was not going to like this. This is too much.
Well, that's going to be a longer podcast, I'm sure.
Is there anything else outside the university, just in terms of the experience of going to Hartt? I mean, my impression would be it's very cold. Is that true? But tell me about like what is the university experience itself that I'd be getting beyond just the theater school?
You know what's cool about us? I mean, it's Hartford, Connecticut, so we are in New England. It's a little colder, but not much. I mean, it's not as crazy as like if you were living in Maine or Buffalo, New York or something. It's closer to New York. I mean, we're only 2 hours north of New York. So, and I think that's one of the benefits. Hartford is okay. I mean, it's the capital of Connecticut. It's a great city, but I think what's great about it is that is close and in between 2 major greater cities. But our campus is in the suburbs. It's in West Hartford. So it's a very pretty, very rolling greens and lots of parks and really beautiful, like old Victorian mansions and things. Really beautiful place to have campus life. But our campus, our theater campus, is actually a satellite campus. It's about 5 minutes away, down the block. It's about 2 miles away. So, and our campus is only ours. We share it with the dance division, but it's really just the dance and the theater division's kind of playground. So while we have this, macrocosm of this big university life, the satellite campus is really just for the artists that train within our curriculum.
I love it. My last question on this section is just, as all of these students are now making their final decisions, many of MTCA students are sitting there going, I have multiple options. What do I do?
Yeah.
As you find students are saying no to Hartt, why do you feel like they tend to say no? If you get to hear back when they say, you know what, I went with a different school. Why do you feel like that is often the case?
And you know what, we want to know those things too. I mean, as doing the line of work that you do, we go on a journey with each of these students. They start when they first send us their pre-screens, and then if they're invited to do a callback, and then the correspondence that goes along with that, and of course all the tours and the visits and seeing shows and connecting with current students. We really do fall in love with all of our applicants. And so it is a hard thing to kind of say, okay, yes, of course, we want the best for you. What are the reasons why you've decided to go to another university? A lot of it always comes down, I'm sure to financial, finances. Our scholarships are good, but they're not as great as others. I can say that. If the students were to come here and visit and see how engaged our MTs and ATs are in their classes, getting to interact with faculty, getting to see the shows that we produce, really understanding what we do here, those are the students that actually come because they really know, oh my gosh, I can see myself in these rooms, in these studios. But a lot of the reasons that I believe, if I'm going to be completely transparent, has to do with scholarships and scholarship opportunities. If someone can offer you more scholarship money and we're at our cap and we can't get you any more, no matter how much we plead for that particular student, of course they're going to go to where there's more money, of course.
I love it. Anything else that we missed? Anything else that you always want to brag about Hartt, where you go, I'd love to talk about this. You at least mentioned the junior year study abroad program for the actors.
Yeah.
Anything like that you would want to throw in there as well?
100%. Oh, I could talk all day about how I can brag about this program. So the one thing that I think is really cool for both the music theater and the acting majors is that we have professional partnerships lined up for both the acting majors and the music theater majors. The acting majors get to perform on the Tony Award-winning stage of Hartford Stage, right down the road from us. It's where Gentleman's Guide started. It's where Anastasia started. So, our students are engaging with huge Broadway talent, both acting and directing and stage management. And they get to perform on that stage. It is a guarantee. Every acting major leaves with Hartford Stage on their resume. So that is a really big coup for us, because we can offer that acting major the opportunity to have this really awesome professional credit. Not to lessen any really great summer stock opportunities that our students get while they're with us, but having a really great regional house on their resume with an amazing director is such a coup for us. And it actually not only is a really great resume builder, but they actually learn what it is to be in a professional environment, what it's like to have to show up and really engage with Broadway talent. And it's not just acting with their peers, they're actually acting with professional artists. It's a really unique opportunity that we can offer our ATs. Now, our MTs get the same kind of professional partnership with Goodspeed Musicals, Goodspeed Opera House, which is down the road a little bit further. But all of our MTs get to perform in their New Works Festival that happens once a year. And our MT4s, our fourth year MTs, just got back from there. They workshop 3 new musicals in rep. And each of them gets to really work with new composers, really engage with new work, understanding what that's like, learning new pages, new songs, and then having it all being scrapped. Or actually, you need to play this part because this part, blah, 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 blah. Or actually, I took this song down a third because you really can't sing that high note. All that stuff. We give them that opportunity to work.
They're fourth year MTs. They can't sing the high note. Come on, Ricky. Where's all the private voice lessons happening?
Well, sometimes they tailor the song to the actor that's singing it, right?
They'd be like, sorry, you're capped at a high C. I'm like, yeah, I'm capped. Okay, just deal with it.
If we can lower a key for Sutton Foster, we can lower a key for anybody.
Talk about it.
Thank you, Meghan. Thank you. Testify, please. So it's a unique opportunity. Goodspeed is an absolute amazing partnership that we have been able to nurture over the years. And so all of our music theater majors not only have Goodspeed on their resume when they graduate, but also they have this amazing opportunity to work on new work, things that have never been produced before. Our students were the first to workshop Come From Away before it came down to New York. So that opportunity, they're working with amazing new composers like Erica Yoa. People who are right on the thumb of this industry. Our students really get to engage with them for a solid 2 weeks at Goodspeed. The other opportunities professionally is that we have all these we're kind of in the sweet spot for all these great theaters. 2 of our students are in a new play that's going on at TheaterWorks Hartford right now. So they're not doing the show that we're doing here in our season. They're actually working professionally and getting EMC points at this amazing, reputable regional house at TheaterWorks.
Super cool. And then tell me a little bit more about that junior year study abroad as well.
Yeah, so we have been sending our ATs to London for about 20 years now. And basically what happens is by their 3rd year, they have learned so much about how to produce work. But we kind of take it a step further. We send them to London and they work in a conservatory called the Downtown Shakespeare Lab, where they are working with a whole other new faculty that are British based. So they're learning from a whole new way of kind of performing classical text. They spend 2.5 months. They go over there in January. They just got back this week. And they're working 7 days a week in an immersive, very intense Shakespeare training program where they did 3 shows in 2.5 months. They got to perform on the Globe stage. They get to see West End shows. They're going backstage. They're meeting West End actors and directors. They have master classes with all these amazing guest artists that are from the West End and the London stages. It's a very, very comprehensive opportunity that we're able to give our 3rd year ATs. And you know what? They're ready for it at that time. And it's not like it's a chaperone thing. They are living in London. We kind of drop them off in the middle of London and they've got to be responsible for learning the tube and learning how to get to the studios on time and really immersing themselves in what it's like to be a working actor and a student in a different culture, which is amazing. And we're very excited about this program. It always transforms these ATs. They come back and they think, oh, we know everything. We're super cool. We've been living in London. Shakespeare who? Shakespeare what? It's actually an amazingly transformative 2.5 months for them. So they're just about to come back and we start The Tempest tomorrow night.
Is this study abroad just for ATs, or can MTs also apply?
The study abroad is just for ATs, but we have other study abroad opportunities. We can send the MTs to London for the 2 weeks before we go to London with the ATs, and they just go to the West End shows. They do like 7 or 8 West End shows and get to bop around London. And then we have an Italy program that the MTs take as well. That's just 2 weeks right before the winter semester starts.
So cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm jealous of both. I want to go there. I want to perform on the Globe, and then I want to come to the Tempest with you guys. So this is
seriously,
you're getting me too excited, Ricky. Well, let's take a short break. And on the back end of the break, we will talk a little bit about the Hartt audition process.
Great.
Well, we are back with Ricky Oliver, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Hartt audition. And I'm going to ask you, I think, the hardest question to ask an auditioner. But in short, what do you think makes a great audition for you?
Well, okay. So my first part of this answer is, we're new to the whole pre-screen process. This is our second year doing it. And the first last year was really solely because there were no live auditions, right? Mm-hmm. So we've maintained the pre-screen kind of format, and it really works for us. So it's so weird. It's so bizarre to look at these pre-screens. They're bizarre. Mm-hmm. And there's no way to make it not bizarre. Right. You have a screen behind you, and you're kind of like, am I in the frame? Do you hear my music? All that. So we take all that for granted. We take all that under consideration when we look at every single pre-screen. What I think makes really good, something that sticks out in my head again, I keep on going back to this word, but I'm looking for a human. I don't want an actor robot. Mm-hmm. I don't want someone's like, hello, I'm going to be singing Vanilla Ice Cream from She Loves Me. That is not interesting to us. Mm-hmm. Even if she has those amazing notes, just like all the women that have sung before her, it's just, we're not looking for robots. We want malleable, really, people who are just like, this is who I am. I may not have the low note on this, or I may have like my voice is cracked or whatever. If someone's voice cracks and that's what's in their pre-screen, I'm like, okay, there's a reason why I want to know more about that, right? Like this imperfection, right? There's so much pressure to be perfect on these pre-screens, right? And I get it, because you're sending them off to 30 schools, right? In the hopes that one of us will give you a call back. And I'm here to tell you, peeps, like there are more of us than there are talented students like you, and certainly the talented students that you have at MTCA. And I think that there's this conditioning in our heads to think that it's the opposite, but it's so not true. There's so few of all of you that really make an impression. So, if you can do that in the weird minute that you're allotted to make a pre-screen, that's what I'm looking for. And it really does happen in the first slate. If you can show me who you are, that's something that we all kind of lean in for. And you want us all, because, we're looking at this computer screen and we're staring at you, on, a Sunday night, trying to get through all these pre-screens that we have to see. And the minute I see, oh, who's that? I want to know more about that person. And then they do the work, and then it's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's the golden pre-screen, right? So that's what I have to say about pre-screen. It's just try to be as natural as you can, right? I know you guys, you do such a good job at coaching and mentoring your students, and the students that come in are always so lovely when we can talk to them. But when we're just looking at a pre-recorded video of them, any sign of humanity or just this is who I am is really great. We do a wild card for the music theater submissions. That's also really fun. I mean, super fun. And be silly, be kooky, like do not take it too seriously. And again, we look at those too, because we want to see like, who is this person? Oh, this person is a weirdo. I love it, right? We love originality and individuality. We're not a cookie cutter program. I would be wary to say if anyone said we are a cookie cutter program, but we certainly are not.
We've not heard it yet. No one's yet to say we make star-shaped people exactly in these beautiful Christmas cookies.
Everyone's coming from a different background. Everyone's coming from a different life, a different experience. Everyone's working with different things. So we're looking for a class of 25 original people, a class of 12 to 14, 16 original actors that are going to come in and show us who they are every day. Because I'm sure, when people are, auditioning, I'm sure people say, I had a really wonderful, profound acting teacher named Jen Waldman. I don't know if you guys know her, but she's an amazing acting teacher. And I had her in the city for many years. And one of the things she said about casting when she was a director was, I'm looking for someone I can be in 2 10 out of 10s with in the dark in the theater. That's who I'm looking to cast, right? At a certain level, you think that everyone's talented. Everyone has to be talented. But it's really about can I access that person? That's going to be the thing that we look for in these pre-screens. And then, okay, so great. You did that. You have a great pre-screen. And we say, yes, let's go. Let's get this person a callback. Then in the room, if we're lucky enough to be auditioning in the room, it really is then, okay, so you're about to come in here and you're nervous as hell. And I'm going to try to make it okay for you. It's going to be very warm waters for you to come in and audition. It's the same thing. We're going to take for granted. We've already seen you hit the high note. We have already seen you do the amazing dramatic monologue or the great Neil Simon monologue. We've seen that. Now it's like, okay, well, how can we engage with you? Now it becomes a conversation. So the talent that you bring is, in my regard, secondary to what do you bring to the table? And Tracy Moore, who's the chair of music theater, she's excellent at her job. And she's up there doing scales with you and making you sing happy birthday just to throw you off and check your ear and all that stuff. It's not about whether you can do it right. It's more about how are you when we throw work at you? How are you if we mess around with your monologue a little bit? Are you able to be open and say, oh, I've never thought of it that way. Let me try it. Or are you like, I think I'll try it, but then I'm so rigid and I'm a robot and I can't. We're not interested in bringing robots to our program. And with all the technology advancements, I mean, we could easily just get 25 robots, but we're looking to train actors and humans, right? So when it comes to the callback and engaging with us, it's, be yourself, but also like ask questions and make it a conversation. So many students come in and they want to be like, I'm doing my work and I want to get the hell out because this is so effing scary. I'm here to tell you that it's all about a conversation. We want to engage with you. We want you to be the one that we are like, I just love talking to her about the dress that she wore. I love talking to her about the snowstorm in Chicago when we were at the Unifieds. I love talking to her about, oh, that's an interesting choice. Why did you do that note as opposed to this note? Or why did you choose that song? It's such an off the beaten path. Or, oh my God, I love this Adele tune. I can't believe you're singing it as a guy. I love it. Oh my gosh, you've inspired me. Those are the kinds of things that we chat about. And if it's met with, thanks, it's a missed opportunity.
Right. You can program better robots than that. They can do more than thanks. Easily.
Well, technology advancements. Come on.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What is if you can think of one of the best auditions you've ever seen or just a particularly memorable one? Of course, you don't have to call it the student or, in terms of who it is, but what is that audition and what was memorable about it? What makes you go, oh, I still remember this years later?
There was, oh gosh, now I am on the spot, my friend. I think there was one young man that came into the room, and this is, years back, maybe 5 or 6 years back, and they were uncomfortable in their body. They just were. And this was before we were having the conversation of trans youth about identity. We weren't really talking about gender expression. And they came in and just said, this is me. I am authentic. I could not be more authentic in my skin. And they did all this. Getting emotional just thinking about it because it was such a moving experience. And I was the only one in the room. It was an acting audition. And I just remember being so moved by the bravery and the authenticity of this particular student. And they just came in and said, I know what I look like, but I can't do that material. And I feel like I can only do the material that is going to show me off the best. And it was just so unprompted. It was so raw and so real. And I was like, yes, sir, come on in. Yes, please tell me who you are. And it was really amazing. And I say that because it stuck with me because now we're in this new landscape where it's so much easier to do that. And students like this young man paved the way for students today to come in and just say, this is, duh. I mean, I've had 17 auditions and this is who it is, right? But it was so moving to me, and it just went back to the authenticity. Mm-hmm. This person said, I got to do what I got to do. And I love it. He prefaced it with all of that. And I said, hell yeah, you do. Like, is there any other choice? Mm-hmm. And ever since then, that is what I do look for in every student, is that authenticity. And, everyone's story is different. Everyone's journey is different. But if you can offer a little bit of who you are in a really authentic way, boy, that's exciting.
So true. It's so true. Now, if you had to estimate, so I love this conversation. Already we're talking about sort of the skills that we're seeing, monologue, song, dance, or especially for you when you're looking at acting, looking at the monologue skill, if we can call acting a skill in that way at 17 years old. But then how much of the decision is based on that versus some of those questions of like how they took the adjustment, how they dealt with the interview question, how they walked in the room, right? Those sort of intangibles we talked about.
Sure.
If you want to think of a percentage, or how does it work in terms of how you're evaluating those different things?
I wish there was a cut and dry, easy, percentages and letter grades and number scores. I mean, we give a very arbitrary score, but it really is just how we engage with the candidate, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, everyone gets nervous, so we take that into account. If you're in the callback a portion of our audition process, we already know that we like the talent that you've already been able to show on a pre-recorded video. So we already understand what you're going to bring into the room. It's how you invert it and how you present the work, right? So many students come in and they really, especially in these like big kind of cattle call unified auditions where there's so many students and there's so many schools, and these kids are going from one to another. They have 17 callbacks in one day. I mean, on the 15th or 16th or 17th, they're done, but they push through, and that is admirable. But it's hard to engage someone that's has a very tired voice. It's hard to engage with someone who's like kind of glossed over because they're just, it's been a long day, right? So we take all that into account. There's not a cut and dry like, they fudged the double pirouette, so then therefore they're out. There's just I don't think any program, if they're really being honest with themselves, can really judge that harshly and just be like, well, they're out. Oh, they can't hit that high note, out. Because again, we're looking for ensembles. So if they're going for that squelty note, that, crazy,
you're about to do it for us. You can sing it for us, Ricky.
No,
you can sing a little.
I don't. You're not paying me nearly enough to use my gifts. You're just not.
Some people do it for the love of the art form, Ricky. I didn't know it was all about commerce.
I should do it for the children. I really should do it for the kids, right? No, if you're doing like a crazy, Mean Girls squelty thing, right? But you can't hit it. That doesn't mean that you're not talented. It doesn't mean that you don't have all the other notes in the song. It just means that you kind of botch the top note. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you pushed. Maybe you don't have great technique, but you have, there's a lot that goes into that. So how can we say, well, didn't hit the high note, out? We can't really judge that. We can't judge in that regard. We can't do that. We're looking for an overall thing. And luckily it's a team of us, right? So Tracy Moore is the chair of music theater. She's the one that's literally listening for the music and watching the acting. And then we have Ralph Perkins, who is the director of our music theater dance program. So he's doing the dance calls. And then you have me, who's the chair of actor training. And the three of us really put our heads together. And after everyone leaves, we'll say, okay, so what did you think of him? Like, well, he's not really a dancer, but he picked up a couple things. And oh my gosh, well, he had this really great note, but his acting. Oh, and the three of us really are able to work in concert with one another to kind of figure out how the pecking order and who's getting accepted and who's on the wait list and et cetera.
I love it. That was exactly my next question. You anticipated beautifully, which will lead me on to then. So let's say the three of you put your heads together. You absolutely love these however many students, 25 and 12 or 25 and 14. how does that work then with the academic university? Are there minimums that they have to pass? Is there now a vote that the academic university gets? How does that work with you?
We have a lot of say in who comes to the program artistically. They have to be accepted academically, right? And we definitely take into consideration, this person, their GPA is they're just not going to be accepted. Then, because we can access that information. So we could see, okay, well, this person's probably not going to be accepted academically. So let's not push them further down the pipeline. Or, oh my gosh, we need to fight for this person, even though they may not be the academically in the pocket. Let's fight for them because we really see a lot of potential. There's a lot of, we do work in concert with the admissions team in that regard, but sometimes they draw the hammer. But we artistically have a lot more authority into saying we need to get this person. Now, scholarship dollars are a whole other thing. So, I will say, just being completely transparent, that scholarship dollars that really, add up are the talent-based, the artistic-based scholarships. The merit scholarships and the academic scholarships are not as great as what we can offer based on ability. And that's not just because they hit the high note. It's because it's our overall investment. We want this person in the program.
And now you went down the scholarship path because so many of our students are at that place right now. I'm sure you're feeling it too. How does that work? Do you have a certain pot that you're able to give? Is it a max per student, or do you have a certain pot that you've got to give to the full 25 and 14 students in terms of what you can actually receive?
We have certain pockets of, okay, this person is a X amount of dollars scholarship in our heads. And then there are only a handful for each MT or AT that are like, these are who we really, really want. We really need to fight for them for a number of reasons, mainly because they might need a lot more aid, mainly because, oh my gosh, they're our killer, or mainly because there's just like, we see a lot of potential. We could really work with this student. So again, all of these things make up the decision of who gets what dollar amount. However, there is a cap. We can only we can only go at a certain amount, and we give. We're able to, every year they tell us, okay, you can give X amount of these big scholarships and X amount of these scholarships, and then there's always a little bit of wiggle room. Again, it's a year by year basis.
I love it. That was really specific and I think very helpful for especially the parents. We have a lot of parent listeners who are going, how does this work? And it's different school by school. And, we say it's different each time. And they go, but how does it work? Is it helpful to hear some of that for sure? Let's just end with at least this section will end with any piece of advice that you would give to maybe a prospective student. Could be to a senior right now who's kind of making decisions. Could be to a junior who's just about to start this whole process up. What would be sort of your big advice?
I would say, I can answer. So if you are considering us and you've been accepted, I would say reach out to us. Let's connect, right? So many students are so frozen with indecision that they don't do anything. Let us chat with you. Let us invite you to see classes or connect with students. Or if you can't come visit us for whatever reason, let us get you on a virtual tour. Let us really roll out the red carpet for you and court you, because we are highly invested in you. So that's my advice for students that are deciding about our program. I'm sure they have lots of options. Most of your students are very super talented. I'm sure it's very hard for them to pick a one school, right? So I would say if we are on your list, reach out to us. Let us know that you want to chat more. Because we have lots of things that we can give you. We can be hands-on or very hands-off, but there's so many students that are kind of like, I'm so scared, I'm not going to reach out to anybody. And that's no good for anybody, right? Because if we don't hear from you, then we're like, this person might not be interested. And then all of a sudden they've deposited it on May 2nd. And we're like, what? Where did this person come from? Right? So that's what I'll say about those students. The students that are just starting this process, keep going. This is great. You're on the right track, right? You're already getting the right kind of training to get yourself groomed for the audition season. So this is great. Really sit with yourself, because you're the only person that can make these decisions. So that requires you, yes, you have these really amazing coaches and mentors at MTCA, but do your own research. Make sure that your list is a list that you're happy with. Don't let your parents, don't let your teachers, don't let MTCA tell you where you should go, you need to make that decision, because it's a very big commitment and a very big investment on your part to spend 4 years at an institution like ours. And I would hate for you to come to my program just because your parents told you to, right? So that starts with the research. That starts with, oh my gosh, Hartt has a London program? I want to know more about that. Oh my gosh, Goodspeed? That's so cool. I know people that have done Goodspeed shows. That show came from Goodspeed, blah, 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 blah. That's cool. I want to go to that program. Then that's a part of your list, right? Not, oh, I want to go to all the top schools because there's a list somewhere that says that the top 10 schools of music theater or the top 10 schools of acting are these. That's well and good, but that's someone that you don't even know that's telling you that, right? So you have to make that list. You've got to find it for yourself. Obviously, you have guidance, but ultimately, this decision has to be yours. Your list has to be yours.
It is so true. I want to wrap up with this idea of like looking at the kind of specific challenges of the past couple years, sort of looking back and looking forward. What adjustments have you made, in the past, let's say since 2020, whether it's from the demands of racial equity, whether it's about sort of the demands of a virtual world, just the different world that we're emerging from post-pandemic. Sure. I'd love to hear sort of how Hartt has adjusted, especially in your new tenure as chair, and sort of where you see yourself going in the next 4 or 5 years.
This is an excellent question, and I'm glad we can chat about it a little bit. Hartt took a very hard stance on so many of these issues. And, our students, came to us and said, when it came to racial justice and in 2020, when, the world was starting to catch on fire and there was so much going on, right? And there was so much angst and anxiety centered around so much of equality and diversity and inclusion. And our students said, hey, you got to do better. You guys just have to do better. And we, as a faculty, were like, yes, you're right, we do. And so the students of Hartt started their own student group called the Artists of Color Alliance. And it is a group that is fully in our student body, and it is made up of our students of color and allies. And they are really pushing us to the forefront of social justice issues. They are really educating us in how do we engage with diversity? How do we engage with inclusivity? That's
one too many. There's one too many in there.
Somewhere in there, yes. But they are keeping us honest about how we are dealing with inclusion in the classroom, in our productions, the way that we interact in the world. Right? They said to us, the first order of business was, you need more faculty of color you need more teachers of color on faculty. And that next semester, we had 11 teachers of color. We had started with 1, and now we have 11. So wow. We are listening, and it is that conversation, right? These are hard conversations to have. And I think everyone was, especially in those times of 2020, everyone was either afraid or emotional about having them. And we just sat with ourselves, both the faculty and students, and we had many listening sessions, and we got to work on stuff. We made very actionable plans to address some of these issues that come up, not just in our society, but in the microcosm of the Hartt School. And it's been really successful. Our students feel really heard and listened to, and they're making a difference, and they're a part of how we are training the actors of tomorrow. And I am internally grateful for the students that I've been able to engage with since 2020, because I feel like we've actually made some really exciting things happen. They're a part of our play selection committee. They come to faculty meetings. They really do engage with us in a very, very profound way. And that is one thing that came out of 2020 that will never be, we'll never not have that. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the good things about 2020. As far as like COVID stuff, I mean, literally just today, we are able to take masks off, which is exciting. So our students now can work without masks. All of our students are vaccinated and boosted. They had to be before returning to classes. So, this whole year we have been in person. Since 2020, we've been in person. Mm-hmm. But there was a hybrid, mm-hmm. action going on. Some of the classes that we teach, like the on-camera classes that we teach, are in a digital format because it's so much easier to train acting for the camera while using a camera. Mm-hmm. So those classes are in a digital format. We have an industry professional that directs our AT showcase and teaches the advanced acting for the camera, and he's based in LA. So, he is zooming in and engaging with our seniors as they are developing the showcase.
So cool. And then what about the 2022-23 audition season? I know we just wrapped this audition season. How could you know that? But are there any virtual auditions that you're keeping? I mean, I assume you're hoping to be in person, but
we are hoping to be in person. Although, because we have a bunch of eager beavers all the time auditioning for like 30 different programs, we're always going to have some format of a digital audition landscape, just because it's so easy for students that are trying to negotiate all the 30 different auditions to make time for everyone. So we are doing, we engage with students virtually. But as soon as we can just scrap all that, we will. But I'm sure there's always going to be a virtual audition date. Unfortunately, that's really out of our hands. The admissions team really comes up with that information. We can offer our thoughts, but ultimately it's the admissions team that really decides on that.
Totally makes sense. Anything we didn't get to hit today? Anything that you if you had on a little, I wanted to make sure I talked about this tonight, but anything that we didn't touch on yet?
Speaking of the showcase, we didn't really chat about the career launch.
Yes,
so, I'm all about process. Around here, we're all thinking about how we better train our actors and our singers and our dancers. And one thing that we do really offer our students is that senior year, we do offer a showcase. They are split. So the ATs do a more digital, more film and television based showcase that we started just this year that has had amazing results. And because of the digital format of that showcase, our students are able to learn how to be bi-coastal. They're engaging with agents and talent representatives in LA and in New York, which is huge. We've never been able to offer that to our students. And it's been such an amazing and successful partnership that we are moving forward with that, which is really cool. The music theater usually has a showcase in New York, which is highly successful. We have so many industry professionals come to that. Unfortunately, this year with COVID and stuff, we are going to do another digital showcase for the MTs, but that is probably going to be scrapped, because if we're getting rid of masks in March, by the time next May comes around, they're going to have a live showcase. Gosh willing.
Gosh willing, indeed.
Gosh willing.
I'm so glad you hit that. That was really great. That's good to know. If students wanted to follow you, we found your Instagram is at Hartt MTAT22. Just kind of guess how many T's are in that at different times. Are there better places for them to follow you guys along?
Yeah, I mean, every one of our students has an Instagram. Every one of our classes has an Instagram handle. If you want to start just following the Hartt School, that's a good way to kind of get started with like connecting just universally. And that's all student generated. We are old and do not know how to broadcast and do social media. I can barely turn on my computer. So
Ricky and I are actually in our 80s. It's amazing. We sound great, but when you look at us, it's bad when you do that.
My God. It's like death becomes her up in here.
Ricky, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me. And, I'm very happy to be, you guys always have such wonderful students. They always are such stars in our programs. And we're just so thrilled that you guys are sending so many great kids our way. And if there's anything that we can do to connect year after year, please, you just have to let us know and reach out.
Will do. So sweet of you to say. Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Ricky. I found him to be effervescent and charming as always, as well as profoundly intelligent, a true joy to chat with. One small takeaway that seems appropriate for this time of year is just to talk about scholarships. I won't go incredibly deep on this one since it really could be an hour-long webinar. In fact, we do 4 of them from February through May. So it's like 4 hours of content if we're really going to get into scholarships and all the nuances. But I just want to expand a bit on something you heard Ricky and I talking about there in the different ways that schools can allocate money. As with so many aspects of this process, and I think this is especially infuriating for parents who know like the normal collegiate process, that was normal in quotes there, there's not a lot of consistency with how scholarships work from school to school. The only consistency is inconsistency, and that like all schools are going to have some scholarships, but it works very differently from school to school. There can be academic money. There can be talent money. And sometimes that word merit is used confusingly to kind of talk about either of those categories. And schools will use that in different ways. And then there is negotiation, which is a whole other barrel of worms. This is setting aside need-based money, which I think tends to be a bit more cut and dry and knowable, whether you qualify for need-based aid. And then the academic is also a bit more discoverable with the right tools in advance. But the talent/merit portion of it and the negotiation portion of it is really never going to be known until the very end after you've finished the negotiating process. And even with that, all these schools are going to play differently. Some are going to be aggressive right off the top with a big offer. Other schools are going to start smaller, but could go up if you negotiate. You heard Ricky here talking about a range he can move within. That's him talking about the limits of his negotiation and how he can pull that off. Some schools might have those certain ranges for certain kinds of students, where some might just have a total pot they can play with that they're trying to use and divvy out to get as many of the students that they actually want to come to the school with, of course, the smallest dollars possible. The specifics of all of this are actually not so important for you to know in terms of the mechanics of how schools work on the back end. But I do think it's helpful to know going into this process, just generally what is possible versus what is not, so you can help navigate the creation of a financially balanced list and at least approach the negotiation process with a bit of foreknowledge. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode and feel slightly more foreknowledged, please hit that subscribe button. We'd also love you if you rate us, if you review us. I suggest 5 stars if you are a cotton blend, and an ironic 5 stars if you're exactly one kind of cotton and you like it that way. You can also check us out with questions, mailbag at Mapping the College Audition. You can hit me and Meghan directly. I'm at Charmer7. She's at Meghan Marie 2014. You know, if you want to work with MTCA, you can head to mtcollegeauditions.com and follow us on all the various social media platforms. To my young artists out there mapping their journeys, if you're actually a robot listening to this, I see you and I love you. I don't know why Ricky hates you so much, but here you are loved. We'll see you next week.